from the News Channel 5 network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris here on a wet and kind of slick out there Thursday. And got a good show on tap for you as always. We've got a great panel of guests this morning to talk about a number of things just to be thinking about as we expect. You can think about this year round, don't get me wrong, safe driving and how things are on the roads, but especially during the holidays as now we're about to embark upon, I think, what still remains, according to AAA, the busiest travel time of the year around Thanksgiving. It's going to get crazy out there, which is one reason why I'm staying put. I don't want to be out on the roads, but I know many of you will. And you want to be as safe as possible, and a lot being done in this great state to help make your trip better, safer, so you get there in one piece. With us this morning to talk about the many things and to take your phone calls, perhaps questions and concerns. We've got a full house. That's why I'm over here on the end this morning. Lieutenant Bill Miller with Tennessee Highway Patrol. Good to have you on,
Good
sir.
morning, Nick. Good
nice
morning.
to see you.
You as well.
It's busy here. It's busy.
Yes.
All right. Arriale Tabson, it's nice to have you on.
Thank you.
She is with the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, Public Information Officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to talk about Operation Incognito with her. And then we have Robert Nagy. You are a doctor, trauma medical director, trauma surgeon at TriStar Skyline Medical Center.
That's right.
You've seen a lot of horrible automobile and motorcycle and injuries, correct?
Yes, sir. We do.
So basically, you're here to scare us.
Well, I hope to maybe not scare us as much as help us think about the consequences of our actions.
Absolutely, and I think that's good. We should talk about that. And, I know you have seen more than your share of horrible, horrible wrecks. It's true, though. Right now, and we'll get to Operation Incognito in a moment. But this time of year, so much more traveling going on. Is that part of why we're doing this morning?
Yeah, it really exactly is, because this time of year it is actually the busiest travel time of the year.
Thanksgiving off the charts.
It exceeds summertime. It exceeds 4th of July traffic. The Thanksgiving period is really the peak time for travel, and it's really the unsafest point to be on the roadway, because there are so many parties and get-togethers and festivities where alcohol is consumed, and then people make that bad choice to drive, and then that's just a bad combination with the increased congestion of traffic.
What have we seen just in terms of, to this point this year, in terms of fatalities? Any numbers, at least maybe some of the more recent stuff? What are you seeing?
Well, currently right now, for year-to-date for 2018, we're at 902 fatalities. Statewide. Last year at this same time, we were 896. Okay. So we got a slight increase, but that's not the direction that we want to go. We want to go all the way down to 0 fatalities, and that's really, many people say that's not something that can be accomplished, which really, we think that it can be, but it takes every driver, passenger being a stakeholder partner in traffic safety. Sure. So one of the areas that we're really seeing an increase in traffic fatalities are inside our urban areas, which those fatalities have gone up 78 people. And I hate to use the word number.
So you're talking about in like metropolitan areas, like cities as opposed to interstates?
Correct. Just your metropolitan government areas. And like I said, I hate to use the word number, but it's actually people. They've gone up 78 people more this year than compared to last year, and that's just really something that is very disturbing, because you have to ask yourself why, and that's probably a combination of distracted driving intoxicated, and not wearing your seatbelt.
Okay, and again, so much of it, as he just described there, everything you just said in those three, preventable in a lot of things.
Yeah, very much.
But there's sometimes the things that you just can't prevent, but preventable, and that's where Arriale, you come into play here on Operation Incognito. Tell us about that. I know we did a story on it. I love the name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, first, I want to ask you, tell me what you think Operation Incognito means.
Well, I just think that when I hear incognito, it's like someone in disguise, hiding, something like that. Operation Incognito, so I assume it might be coming from law enforcement, someone out there watching, and maybe you don't know that you're being watched, and they're going to try to catch you if you're texting and driving when you shouldn't be. That's kind of what I thought when I saw it.
Bingo. So there's actually two great facets to this. This is a huge enforcement campaign as well as an awareness campaign, and what we're doing, of course, is combating distracted driving and trying to prevent those serious injury, crashes, and fatalities. But this is more than just law enforcement using unmarked vehicles or using different vehicles to try to conduct creative enforcement. This is also us exposing those risky driver behaviors that a lot of people try to hide, like texting and driving. When you think about motorists who are taking their phone to use for GPS or for texting or responding to emails, they're not always going to be having that behavior for you to see right in front of your eyes. They're trying to disguise it, put it in their lap or hold it low, you know, so they're not getting caught. So if anything, our drivers are being incognito, and we want to expose those behaviors.
Sure. All right, so how will you be doing that, basically?
That's a good question. So November 13th, we launched the campaign statewide, where we hosted press events all across the state. We partnered with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, Department of Health, Department of Tourism, all these different state agencies and local as well. And that was our kickoff. That was us announcing to the public, look, we're going to be out there in full force. We're here to educate you and spread awareness, not only for the distracted driving component, but also to move over. A lot of people aren't aware of the move over law.
How can you not be aware of the move over law at this point? How can you possibly not know? First of all, even before that law into effect, and I drive, it's just damn common sense.
It's courtesy.
You know what, Chief Walker, the former commander of the THP, used to come on the show and talk about how in the early days he remembers having to stop and talk to a truck driver, and other truck drivers, he would say, would purposely stay in that lane, and their goal was to blow the hat off his head, which was stunning that would go, and they thought it was just a guess. You know how close you have to get to a trooper to blow the hat off their head?
I've had my hat blown off numerous times.
That is awful.
I've been standing beside a vehicle, and I've had the mirror of that vehicle actually knocked off because a truck driver or another vehicle got so close. I've lost a very good friend, a classmate of mine that I went through the Tennessee Highway Patrol Trooper Academy with back in '97, Trooper Todd Larkins. Todd was on the side of the road doing his job as safely as he could possibly do it on I-40 in Dixon, and a truck driver did just that, was trying to blow his hat off and ended up striking Todd and killing Todd.
That should be a homicide charge.
It very much, it should be.
I hope it was. I don't remember how that played out, but if you were trying to do that, should be a homicide charge. That
was the basis for the move over law, was Todd's life being lost.
Yeah, but again, it should be common sense. But yeah, as you said, getting the word out, and I know you're right about that. There are people that maybe don't realize it. Sometimes you're in a position where you maybe just can't get over. I've been in that situation, so I slow way down.
You should slow down.
Slow down, because all of a sudden you come on it and there's someone right there, and you don't want to cause a wreck by cutting in front of them. So I slow way down. But aside from that, there's no excuse.
No, and we thank you for slowing down, and there's no excuse for that. And the law is very clear. If you cannot move over, slow down, and just give that officer, give that emergency worker, give that utility worker. And now the law has changed where give that motorist, any motorist, whether it be a passenger car, it doesn't have to be a marked emergency vehicle or a utility truck or an ambulance or any type of other service vehicle. It can be just a simple car, a family, anyone put on the side of the road, just move over or slow down and give that person the courtesy of safety.
All right, Doc, weigh in on this.
I was just going to say, just to tag on to what Lieutenant Miller said, we have these move over laws, but we still see injuries, and the injuries we see now, I can think of 5 families in the last year where it was a good Samaritan on the side of the road trying to help someone else, and people didn't move over, or perhaps didn't realize what was going on, but struck that individual, and 4 of the 5 of them didn't make it. And so this is a real serious problem, as are all of these distracted driving issues.
Yeah, and just if you can, characterize the trauma that occurs when you're hit by a vehicle going 70 miles an hour.
I mean, it's devastating. I mean, we're not built to withstand that kind of force. And there's in the trauma world, we kind of talk about blunt force trauma and penetrating trauma. And penetrating trauma are the things you would think of, knives and guns and things like that. But the vast majority of what we see, fortunately, if you can say that, is blunt force trauma. Falls, probably the #1 thing that we see in trauma centers across the U.S. But the #2 is motor vehicle injuries, and they can be just completely devastating. The biggest sort of long-term economic impact are head injuries. You can see a lot of really incredible folks. We had that young woman at the the last year. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the summer camp, who had the just devastating lower extremity injuries, and she got up and she walked again. But the benefit that she had was she didn't have a head injury, and head injuries are really the things that just take away someone's productive years, productive life. It changes the person who they were if they survive. And so I think that's one of the big areas that really impacts with specifically.
Absolutely. And again, with head injuries, buckle up. We'll get into all that as well.
Yeah.
Listen, we got to take a break. When we come back, we've got some phone calls coming in for you. I know you have much more, all three of you, to share about this, and it's a good topic, especially this time of year. We'll take a break, be back with your calls and more with our fine guests right after this. Stay with us.